Yes, Dr. Edward, I have been there too. And jumping off, changing job takes effort and also company money. Our next question is, how do executive leaders normalize self-care as a way to cost avoidance, reducing attrition rate, and save money? You beautifully mentioned about not being recognized for your talent. There's a story. A kid goes to a shop, 3 shops with a key, watch, and one shop says, I'll give you 50 cents for it. Another shop says, I'm going to give you $2 for it. And the kid takes the watch to the museum, and they want to pay him $20,000 or $200,000. So this is something that relevant to your story, and how we can create an environment where we're honoring people first, and then the work and productivity second. So how would you flip that switch, and how can executive leaders normalize self-care as a way to save company a lot of money?
Well, you mentioned the word save money. And the irony is that, and I use the term cost avoidance, which means if people keep leaving an organization, it costs money to recruit them, but it costs less money to keep them. So that's the argument that you can show with appropriate people in place that can help a person work through any particular trauma that they're experiencing, and that becomes the norm instead of the exception. Then you're able to recognize that you make your associates and employees happy. There's a study that in California, there's a term called happy cows make good cheese. Well, there's also several studies that show happy employees provide good care. And so if the employee is happy, then you can go into what is happiness. But if they're content in their job and with their team, they give excellent care. And that's what patients and clients want. They want excellent care. If they're not paying attention to the client or patient, the patient feels they're not good enough. They're not good enough to get the good care. And so that affects the different forms of questioning that usually comes, after a person is there. They get a quote, they get a question, how was your care? And what comes out mostly is that they didn't care for me.
In a busy world, especially the C-suite leaders are tackling a lot of functional duties, let alone they might be also under pressure, and they might be hiding some tumultuous emotions. Now, how do leaders show and examine proactively and productively that they care? Maybe they care, but they don't know how to express it in a way that it translates well to the employees and people involved. How do you do that?
Well, again, it's by example. Where I used to work, we used to have all the members of the executive team had rounds. So they went and greeted the new patients and the staff every day. And so the person in charge isn't someone that they see, on their paycheck. That person is humanized. And so we always think it's like we don't have enough money, but the reality is we do. And the other is we don't have enough time, but the reality is we do. And so if we spent more time in those type of development and relationships, we'd have less people wanting to sue us. So again, it goes back to the money. but it also goes back to the integrity, the mission, vision, and values of the organization. And that's what's really important. It's not plaques that are on the wall. They're living examples. They're living examples of how we conduct our business. And so if they have particular values, those values articulate how the mission is being lived. And those values help understand, and also once a year in their evaluation, they're evaluated on how they have lived those values. So for example, I worked at a place and they had a value of excellence. Well, oh, excuse me, they also had a value of respect. And so respect meant that you would be on time for a meeting. Now just think of that. You would be on time for a meeting. And I remember being with this group, and one in particular said, I don't want to be on time because, you know, we always have to be available for crises. Well, she was trying to sabotage everything. And they said, well, we want to work as a team. And I remember going into the middle of the circle and drawing a line. And I said, here's the line in the sand. You know, if you want teamwork, you have to follow this value of respect. And then she admitted she was just doing this to aggravate everybody. But the bottom line was that she, you know, that they learned something as simple as being on time was living out their value of respect. What I was going to say about excellence, I remember giving orientation to new employees, and I said, is there anyone here who's perfect? No one raised their hand. And so I said, oh, okay, so that's why we have a value of excellence, because we're always striving to improve. You know, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, and we want to improve. And then I said, don't we just hate people who think they are perfect? So those are some examples.
I love how simple it is to name what respect looks like and means for this organization and the team, because it gives a benchmark or a target for me to show respect, because respect can be a really subjective word, right? You mentioned about mission, value, and vision for the organization, how it is important. For instance, what do we do to the organizations that are already hair on fire? So it's, you know, how do we turn it around?